You will not believe what happens to the girl at the end. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can continue writing stories like this one. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.
Harmony Gulch Dreams. The train shuddered to a halt, brakes exhaling like an exhausted dragon. Lily Mae Bartlett, her grip tight on a well-worn carpetbag, descended onto the Harmony Gulch platform. Miniature tornadoes of dust danced in the waning sunlight, swirling around her ankles, mirroring the apprehension churning within. The air, a blend of sun-baked earth and the promise of rain, was both bracing and disquieting. She smoothed the fabric of her best dress, a faded calico, its once vibrant colors now muted with age. A hand-me-down cherished and carefully repaired, evidence of Lily's resourcefulness. Her auburn hair, usually bound in a practical braid, was restrained by a simple ribbon escaping in rebellious wisps. A constellation of freckles, souvenirs of sun-drenched summers, dusted her face. Warm, honey-colored eyes swept across the desolate station, seeking a familiar landmark, a welcoming face, anything. Finding nothing, a wave of discouragement threatened, but she quickly crushed it with a renewed resolve. She hadn't journeyed this far to succumb to a mere setback. Harmony Gulch held the promise of employment, a chance to prove her mettle, and a way to provide for her family back home. Pa's persistent cough, coupled with the looming threat of foreclosure, fueled her determination. The farm, their last tangible link to Mama, was worth fighting for. Securing the strap of her carpetbag, she inventoried its modest contents: grandfather's cherished veterinary guide, a silver locket holding a miniature portrait of her parents, dried wildflowers pressed between the pages of well-loved poetry. Practical necessities filled the remaining space: spare clothing, a bar of soap, and a small stash of hard candies for sustenance. Only a somnolent station master, his features obscured by a newspaper, occupied the platform. A lone tumbleweed skipped across the rails, a forlorn symbol of the surrounding solitude. The weathered planks beneath her boots groaned in protest as she approached the ticket window. "Excuse me," she began, her voice betraying a hint of trepidation. "I'm Lily Mae Bartlett, here to see Mr. Abernathy regarding the veterinary assistant position." With a weary sigh, the station master lowered his newspaper, revealing a face etched with lines of hardship. He peered at her over the spectacles balanced on his nose. "Abernathy, you say? Up at the AA ranch. Wasn't expecting you till tomorrow. Train's running behind as it is." He waved a hand towards a nearby bench. "Suppose you can wait there." Lily's spirits plummeted. Tomorrow? She hadn't planned for that. Her funds were barely sufficient for the train fare and a meager supper. An unscheduled night in Harmony Gulch presented a considerable challenge. Forcing a smile, she managed, "Thank you, sir." With a sigh, she dragged her carpetbag to the bench, its springs issuing a metallic groan. The sun dipped below the horizon, igniting the sky with brilliant shades of rose, violet, and gold. Though beautiful, Lily remained unmoved by the spectacle. Her mind churned, calculating possibilities and potential pitfalls. Perhaps a cheap room at the local rooming house? Or maybe someone at the AA would grant her lodging for the night? She'd offer her services, of course. Hard work was no stranger to her. She'd been performing farm chores since she was a child. As dusk enveloped the town, the sounds of crickets filled the air, punctuated by the distant cry of a coyote. A sharp gust of wind whipped through the gulch, causing Lily to shudder, hugging herself for warmth. She pictured Pa, his face lined with worry, his back bent from years of toil. She envisioned Ruth, working tirelessly at the diner to ease their financial burden. Memories of Mama, her gentle touch tending the garden, her voice lifted in song, flooded her mind. Lily closed her eyes, recalling the familiar landscape of their farm, the scent of freshly cut hay, the sun's warmth on her skin. She had to succeed. This job was crucial. For them. For Mama. For the farm. A sudden sound broke her reverie. The distinct rhythm of approaching hooves echoed in the darkness, growing louder with each passing second. A figure astride a horse materialized from the shadows, outlined against the ascendant moon. Her breath caught in her throat, her heart hammering. Who was this rider, and what intentions did they harbor? City slickers and shattered hopes. A shrill whistle knifed through the serene stillness of Harmony Gulch, exploding a covey of birds from the depot's overhanging eaves. Lily Mae Bartlett braced herself, clutching her time-worn carpetbag. This was it. With a groan of protesting brakes, the iron behemoth, a locomotive spewing plumes of steam and soot, shuddered to a halt. Doors hissed open, releasing a stream of passengers onto the platform, but they were nothing like the sun-baked ranchers and farmers Lily had envisioned. Instead, city dwellers emerged, a kaleidoscope of colors and textures ripped from the pages of a magazine, Women adorned in beaded flapper dresses that shimmered with every move, their faces daubed with crimson, men in striped finery, nonchalantly twirling canes. They scrutinized Harmony Gulch with undisguised contempt, their expressions souring at the earthy aroma of dust and livestock. One woman, her sleek bob swinging sharply, halted, her gaze landing squarely on Lily. "Good heavens, Beatrice," she drawled, her voice carrying effortlessly. "Look at that outfit. Did she just wander off a stage production?" Beatrice, equally flamboyant, giggled. "Darling, I believe she did. Perhaps she's searching for the nearest barn." Lily's face flushed. She hadn't anticipated a regal welcome, but neither had she expected to be treated as a spectacle. Gripping her carpetbag tighter, she wished she could vanish into the dust devils dancing around her scuffed boots, her fingers finding comfort in the outline of Aunt Clara's brooch in her pocket. A man in a tailored gray suit, the lines around his eyes suggesting countless deals gone wrong, stepped off the train. Clutching a gleaming leather briefcase, he surveyed the platform with an appraising glance. This had to be him, the ranch's overseer. He matched Mr. Abernathy's description perfectly. The Abernethys had dealings with the AA. He spotted a man awaiting him beside a polished ebony automobile and strode in that direction, his heels clicking on the wooden planks. Swallowing her trepidation, Lily followed, careful to maintain a respectful distance. "Mr. Harding, I presume," the foreman said, offering his hand. "That's right," the man responded, his grip firm. "Welcome to Harmony Gulch. I'm Jed Harding, foreman of the AA." Lily paused, feigning interest in a faded advertisement for some dubious tonic plastered to the depot wall. She needed to hear this exchange. "Good to be here," the foreman, whose name Mr. Abernathy had told her was Sterling, replied. "I've got that veterinary assistant application you forwarded." Harding grunted. "Expected as much. The AA needs all the help it can get. So, what's your verdict?" Sterling sighed, the sound echoing clearly in the open air. "Frankly, Harding, it's not a match. The applicant's experience is minimal, and her references, while positive, are all from small holdings. The AA requires someone versed in managing extensive operations dealing with blue-ribbon livestock, someone who understands the intricacies of modern ranching." Lily's hopes crumbled. Each word was a blow, shattering her fragile aspirations. She covered her mouth, desperately fighting back the tears that threatened to spill. "I see," Harding said, his tone even. "So, a rejection?" "I'm afraid so," Sterling confirmed. "Pass on our thanks, but no thanks. She'd be better off tending to hens." He chuckled, a hollow sound that reverberated in Lily's ears. She didn't wait to hear another word. Spinning around, she fled, her carpetbag a heavy weight against her leg, her vision swimming. The laughter of the city folk seemed to pursue her, a mocking chorus to her shattered dreams. She stumbled off the platform, away from the depot, the shimmering train, and its supercilious occupants, away from the crushing disappointment that threatened to overwhelm her. She needed solitude, a place to nurse her wounds and make a plan. Her family, the farm hinged on her, and she had just failed. The sun blazed on her back, the dust choked her lungs, and the vast, unyielding expanse of Harmony Gulch unfolded before her, a stark testament to her isolation. The scent of sagebrush and despair permeated the air. Lily Mae Bartlett was alone, penniless, and utterly adrift, an unexpected arrival. Tears blurred the already hazy outline of the Harmony Gulch depot as Lily stumbled away from the platform. Each step was a lead weight, dragging her further into the quicksand of her despair. The laughter of the departing passengers echoed in her ears, morphing into a mocking chorus that amplified her humiliation. She hadn't just failed, she had been publicly, cruelly dismissed. The gravel crunched under her worn boots, a sound that was usually comforting, a reminder of home and hard work. Now it was just another harsh note in the symphony of her defeat. The wind, which earlier had carried the scent of pine and promise, now whipped around her, carrying dust and the bitter taste of failure. She found herself at the edge of the depot property, a small patch of scrub brush separating her from the open road. Dropping onto a sun-baked rock, she buried her face in her hands. The coarse denim of her jeans scratched against her skin, a minor discomfort compared to the ache in her heart. What now? The question clawed at her, a relentless predator. The farm. Pa, everything hinged on this job, this chance. She had envisioned sending money home, easing the burden on her father, maybe even saving the farm. Now she was worse off than before, stranded in a strange town with empty pockets and a broken spirit. A glint of chrome caught her eye. A car, impossibly shiny and new, was pulling into the depot parking lot. It was a machine of opulence, a stark contrast to the dusty pickups and weathered sedans that usually populated Harmony Gulch. It purred like a contented cat as it came to a stop, the engine silencing with a sophisticated hush. The driver's side door opened and a man emerged. He was tall, perhaps a little stooped with age, but his shoulders were still broad. He wore a tailored suit, the kind Lily had only seen in magazines, but there was a looseness to his posture, a comfortable ease that suggested he wasn't entirely at home in such finery. His face, lined and tanned, held a quiet weariness, but his eyes, a startling shade of blue, were sharp and intelligent. Lily watched him approach the depot, his gaze sweeping over the scene with a discerning eye. She shrank back, instinctively trying to disappear into the scrub brush. She didn't want anyone else to see her like this, vulnerable and defeated. The man paused near the platform, his attention drawn to a group of men clustered around a pickup truck. Lily recognized the foreman from the AA ranch, his booming voice carrying easily across the distance. Should have seen her face, he was saying, his voice laced with cruel amusement. Showed up here looking like she just walked off the farm. Said she was going to be our new vet assistant. Can you believe it? City girls got no place on a ranch, just get in the way. The other men laughed, their voices rough and dismissive. The man in the suit didn't laugh. His face remained impassive. But Lily saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Displeasure. Perhaps even disgust. He turned away from the group, his gaze falling on Lily, half hidden in the brush. He walked towards her, his steps measured and deliberate. Lily's heart hammered in her chest. She tried to stand, to compose herself, but her legs felt like jelly. He stopped a few feet away, his blue eyes studying her with a gentle curiosity. "Are you all right, miss?" he asked, his voice soft and surprisingly kind. Lily swallowed hard, trying to find her voice. I'm fine," she stammered, the lie sounding weak even to her own ears. He raised a skeptical eyebrow. "You don't look fine," and I couldn't help but overhear some rather unkind remarks. He paused, his gaze sweeping back towards the group of men by the truck. "Seems you had an unpleasant experience at the AA?" Lily's cheeks burned with shame. She couldn't meet his eyes. "It's nothing," she mumbled, wishing the ground would swallow her whole. "Nothing?" he echoed softly. "Being dismissed and ridiculed is hardly nothing." He took a step closer, his presence surprisingly comforting. "My name is Arthur Sterling, and I believe you deserve better than this. A ranch to run." The depot atmosphere was stagnant, thick with the acrid tang of creosote and the flat taste of defeat. Lily remained glued to the bench, the crumpled letter of refusal feeling like a stone in her soul. A figure darkened her view, forcing her to shield her eyes against the sinking sun. He was a man of years and bearing, his expression kind, etched with laughed lines. He presented a bottle of water. "A trying day?" After a moment's hesitation, Lily accepted, their fingers briefly meeting. An understatement. She twisted off the cap and drank, the cool liquid a momentary reprieve. "I couldn't help but overhear," he murmured, taking a seat a respectful distance away. "Something about a veterinary position." Heat blossomed on Lily's skin. "Definitely not my proudest moment. We all have them. The measure lies in what comes next." He paused, regarding her with unsettling focus. "Tell me, Miss Bartlett." "Lily Mae Bartlett." "Sterling." "Arthur Sterling." "Miss Bartlett, what now occupies your thoughts?" Lily released a sigh, a deflated sound. "Probably heading back to the farm. Watching it slowly erode into nothing." "Is that truly your desire?" "Desire? No. It's simply the reality." The stark honesty surprised even her. Mr. Sterling offered a slow nod. "I comprehend. Sometimes circumstances seem to offer little leeway. But consider this, what if an alternative existed?" Lily's brow creased. "Like what?" "Winning the lottery jackpot." A low, resonant chuckle escaped him. "Hardly. I own a ranch rather substantial just beyond the town limits. Golden Sunrise Ranch." A flicker of recognition sparked in Lily's gaze. Golden Sunrise was an institution, a sprawling legacy in the Sterling family for generations. "It suffered from neglect, I confess," Mr. Sterling admitted, his gaze following some point on the horizon. "My attention has been elsewhere. The cattle lack vitality. The fields crave attention. The entire place needs someone with dedication." He turned back to Lily, his eyes piercing. "Someone who cares deeply." Lily's pulse quickened. "Are you offering employment?" "Not precisely employment." He formed a steeple with his fingers, thoughtful. "I seek someone to orchestrate its revival. To truly command it." Someone versed in the ways of the land, the language of animals, its fundamental spirit. Lily swallowed hard. I'm struggling to understand. Why me? You know nothing about me. I have observed enough in these brief moments to recognize a resilient spirit, Miss Bartlett. You possess fortitude, and I noted your interaction with that stray dog earlier, a connection that cannot be taught. He leaned forward slightly. I am presenting an opportunity, Lily May, a chance to breathe fresh vitality into golden sunrise, a chance to demonstrate your capabilities, a chance, perhaps, to one day claim it as your own. The words lingered, shimmering with possibility. Lily felt a heady mix of hope and disbelief wash over her. Own it. Indeed. Should you manage its restoration, its return to prosperity, we could then discuss a more lasting agreement. Partnership, conceivably, or even ownership. Lily could only stare, rendered speechless. The depot, the stinging rejection, the suffocating burden of her family's failing farm faded into insignificance, supplanted by the vision of sweeping golden fields and a future she had never dared contemplate. But doubt persisted, a cold anchor in her gut. What's the catch, she managed, her voice a bare thread. There has to be one. Mr. Sterling's smile was laced with a hint of melancholy. The catch is, it will demand everything you have. Relentless labor, protracted hours, and a relentless barrage of challenges. But should you prevail, the reward will be immeasurable. He rose, his gaze encompassing the deserted platform. Contemplate it, Miss Bartlett. I shall await you at the Golden Spur Saloon tomorrow at midday. If you harbor interest, seek me out. If not, I wish you only the best. He touched the brim of his hat and departed, leaving Lily alone once more. The discarded water bottle, a physical manifestation of the improbable proposition she had just encountered. The sun descended further, painting the platform in lengthening shadows, and within their dimness, Lily perceived not the wreckage of her past, but the nascent promise of a golden dawn. Golden sunrise challenges. The cottage, Arthur had called it. Lily called it quaint, quaintly dusty, quaintly cobwebbed, and quaintly smelling of mice. Still, it was hers, at least hers for now. She wrestled her single suitcase inside, the worn leather bumping against the doorframe. The interior was small, a single room acting as living space and bedroom, a tiny kitchen tucked into one corner, and a bathroom that looked like it hadn't been cleaned since the Golden Sunrise Ranch was actually golden. Lily opened the window, hoping to air out the mustiness. A view of parched fields greeted her. The golden sunrise she'd imagined was more of a faded ochre under the relentless sun. Dust devils danced in the distance, mocking her naive optimism. The first order of business was water. She turned on the faucet in the kitchen. Nothing. She tried the bathroom. A pathetic sputter, then silence. This was worse than she'd anticipated. Arthur hadn't mentioned a drought. He just said the ranch needed work. There was a difference between work and resurrection. She found a well house behind the cottage, the wooden structure leaning precariously. Inside, the old pump looked like it hadn't been used in years, rust eating away at the metal. Lily tried the handle. It groaned in protest but didn't yield. Great. No water and a temperamental pump. By late afternoon, fueled by a stale granola bar she'd found in her suitcase, Lily managed to coax the pump back to life. The water that eventually gurgled out was brown and gritty, but it was water. She filled a bucket and lugged it back to the cottage, determined to make the place habitable. The next few days were a blur of cleaning, scrubbing, and minor repairs. Lily patched holes in the roof, battled cobwebs the size of dinner plates, and scrubbed the grime from the windows, revealing a landscape that was still dry, but at least visible. She was exhausted, her hands raw, but a sense of purpose began to bloom within her, stubborn as a desert flower. Then came the tractor. Arthur had said it needed some TLC. TLC, in this case, meant a complete overhaul. Lily popped the hood and a wave of hot, oily air hit her. She recognized most of the parts. She'd spent enough time tinkering with her dad's ancient farm equipment, but the sheer disrepair was daunting. Hoses were cracked, belts were frayed, and the engine was coated in a thick layer of grease and dust. As she was wrestling with a particularly stubborn bolt, a truck rumbled up the dirt track. Lily straightened up, wiping sweat from her brow. A man emerged from the truck, lean and weathered, with eyes as hard and cold as flint. "Looking for something, missy?" he drawled, leaning against his truck. He wore a hat that cast a shadow over his face, but Lily could see the sneer on his lips. "Just trying to get this tractor running," Lily replied, forcing a smile. "That's Sterling's junk heap. Figured he'd finally given up on this place. He hasn't, Lily said, her voice firm. I'm helping him get it back on its feet. The man chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. You? A little thing like you? You won't last a week. This land chews up and spits out dreamers like you for breakfast. Maybe, Lily said, meeting his gaze. But I'm not afraid of a little hard work. Hard work ain't enough when the water's gone, he said, gesturing towards the parched fields. Sterling's well is dry. Everyone around here knows it. He's just too stubborn to admit it. He paused, his eyes narrowing. Besides, that water belongs to us. We got rights to it, passed down through generations. Sterling's been siphoning off more than his fair share for years. I don't know anything about that, Lily said, feeling a knot of unease tighten in her stomach. You will, he said, pushing himself off his truck. You will. He climbed back into his truck and sped off, leaving Lily standing in a cloud of dust, the sound of his engine fading into the vast emptiness of the landscape. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Lily stared at the broken tractor, then at the cracked earth. The challenges were mounting, heavier than she'd imagined. Arthur Sterling hadn't just given her a ranch. He'd given her a battlefield, and she wasn't sure if she was ready for war. Dust and determination. The dust swirled around Lily May's boots as she surveyed the fence line. It was more hole than fence. Really, a patchwork of rotting wood and rusted wire. Sighing, she grabbed her fencing pliers and a roll of new wire. This wasn't the vet assistant job she'd hoped for, but it was work, honest work, and right now, that was all that mattered. The sun beat down mercilessly as she worked, sweat stinging her eyes. Each repaired section was a small victory, a tangible sign that she wasn't giving up. She remembered her grandpappy's words, a good fence makes good neighbors. Considering the reception she'd received from Jedediah, she had a feeling this fence needed to be Fort Knox. Days bled into one another, filled with the rhythmic clang of the hammer and the rasp of wire against metal. She patched fences, cleared brush, and tried to coax life back into the parched earth. She even managed to get the old tractor sputtering back to life after hours of tinkering, a triumphant grin splitting her face as the engine coughed and roared. One afternoon, while exploring the back section of the property, Lily May stumbled upon a patch of unusually green grass. Curiosity piqued. She followed the verdant trail, pushing through thickets of thorny bushes. To her surprise, she found a small, almost hidden spring, bubbling with cool, clear water. A lifeline. She cleared away the debris and carefully channeled the water into a makeshift trough. The relief she felt was immense. It was like finding a buried treasure. The next morning, she discovered that someone had diverted the water from the spring, leaving the trough bone dry. Muddy tracks led toward Jedediah's property line. Fury simmered inside her, but she refused to let him win. Instead of confronting him directly, she spent the day reinforcing the spring's natural containment with rocks and clay, making it harder to tamper with. She also dug a small trench, diverting some of the water to a hidden reservoir she'd found earlier. Let him try to steal from that. A few days later, as Lily May was mending a particularly stubborn section of fence, she heard the rumble of a car approaching. It was Mr. Sterling. He stepped out of the polished sedan, looking completely out of place in his crisp suit and shiny shoes. He surveyed the scene, his eyes widening as he took in the repaired fences, the revived tractor, and the small herd of cattle grazing peacefully in a newly cleared pasture. Lily May, he said, his voice a mixture of surprise and admiration. I didn't expect to see this. Lily May wiped the sweat from her brow with the back of her hand. It's a lot of work, Mr. Sterling, but it's coming along. He walked over to the fence, running his hand along the smooth wire. Jedediah tells me you've been causing trouble diverting water. Lily May met his gaze directly. I found a spring on your property, Mr. Sterling. Someone tried to block it. I simply protected what's yours. He studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then a slow smile spread across his face. I haven't been out here in years, Lily May. I had no idea things were in such disrepair or that there was a spring. He paused, looking around at the revitalized land. You've done more in a few weeks than I've done in a decade. He gestured toward the cattle. Those are looking healthier than they have in years. Lily May blushed slightly. They were just hungry, sir. And thirsty. And needed new grazing. A lot of TLC, really? Mr. Sterling nodded slowly. I see that. I'm glad I gave you this chance, Lily May. More than glad. I'm impressed. He pulled out his phone. I'm going to call Jedediah. I believe a conversation about water rights is long overdue, and I want you to be there to make sure I don't let him bully me." As Mr. Sterling made the call, Lily May leaned against the fence, the setting sun warming her face. She was still just a girl from a failing farm, but here, on this dusty patch of land, she felt a sense of purpose she hadn't known she possessed. The challenges were far from over, but for the first time since arriving in Harmony Gulch, she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could make this work. Under the starry sky, the next few weeks dissolved into a rhythm of sunup to sundown labor. Arthur, true to his word, rolled up his sleeves and pitched in. He wasn't afraid of hard work, just perhaps unsure where to start. Lily May guided him, teaching him the difference between bindweed and morning glory, showing him how to properly mend a fence post, patiently explaining the delicate art of coaxing life back into parched earth. They worked side by side, the silence punctuated by the clang of hammers, the snort of horses, and the occasional shared grunt of exertion. Lily May found herself stealing glances at him. Arthur, in well-worn jeans and a faded denim shirt, sweat plastering his dark hair to his forehead, looked different. Less the polished gentleman, more the rugged rancher. And she liked it. One afternoon, as they were clearing a particularly stubborn patch of thistle, Lily May straightened up, stretching her aching back. "Tell me, Mr. Sterling," she said, a playful glint in her eye, "did you ever imagine yourself spending your days pulling weeds?" Arthur chuckled, wiping his brow with the back of his hand. "Absolutely not. My idea of roughing it used to be a hotel room without room service. But," he added, his gaze meeting hers, "I'm finding I enjoy it more than I thought I would." They took their lunch breaks under the sprawling branches of the ancient cottonwood near the creek. Lily May shared her simple fare, thick slices of bread slathered with butter and homemade jam, hard-boiled eggs, and crisp apples. Arthur, in turn, regaled her with stories of his travels, of bustling cityscapes and quiet mountain retreats. He spoke of art galleries and opera houses worlds away from Harmony Gulch, yet he spoke with a longing that mirrored her own for the land. One evening, after a particularly long day of repairing irrigation ditches, they sat on the porch of the ranch house, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of fiery orange and soft lavender. Lily May pointed out constellations she'd known since she was a child, the Big Dipper, Orion, the North Star. Arthur, in turn, told her the Greek myths associated with them, his voice a low rumble in the twilight. "My grandfather used to tell me those stories," Lily May murmured, lost in the vastness of the sky. "He said the stars were watching over us, guiding us." "Maybe they are," Arthur said softly, his eyes fixed on her face. "Maybe they guided me here." A comfortable silence settled between them, broken only by the chirping of crickets and the distant howl of a coyote. Lily May felt a warmth spread through her, a feeling she hadn't experienced in a long time. It wasn't just gratitude for the opportunity he'd given her. It was something deeper, something more complicated. Arthur shifted beside her, his hand brushing against hers. Lily May didn't pull away. His touch sent a shiver down her spine, a pleasant, unsettling sensation. "Lily May," he said, his voice hesitant. I've been meaning to tell you." Suddenly, a piercing screech shattered the stillness. A barn owl swooped down from the rafters, its eyes gleaming in the fading light. Arthur jumped, startled, and the moment was broken. He cleared his throat. "Never mind," he said, a faint blush rising on his cheeks. "It's getting late. We should probably turn in." Lily May nodded, her heart still pounding in her chest. What had he been about to say? She couldn't help but wonder. As she lay in bed that night, staring up at the cracks in the ceiling, she replayed the evening in her mind. The shared laughter, the quiet stories, the lingering touch of his hand. The stars outside seemed to twinkle a little brighter, as if holding a secret she was just beginning to understand. She felt a pull, a yearning, for something she hadn't allowed herself to dream of. A life beyond the farm, beyond mere survival. A life with Arthur Sterling. But could she, a simple farm girl, ever truly belong in his world? The question hung in the air, heavy and unanswered, as she drifted off to sleep under the watchful gaze of the starry sky. A hero's heart. The sky bled indigo and violet, a mirror to the hollowness in Lily May's gut. Another door slammed shut. That vet clinic favored a candidate paved with prestige, credentials crisp from some East Coast institution. She nudged a pebble, watching it dance across the parched ground. Perhaps she was chasing a phantom, believing she could rescue Bartlett Farm, even manage life beyond its borders. Then the wind gathered force, a keening wail that vibrated through the old house. Raindrops, fat and heavy, splattered the thirsty earth, each impact a miniature explosion of dust and clay. Lily May's breath hitched. A tempest was upon them and the last of the strays needed corralling. By the time she reached the lower pasture, the storm had unleashed its full fury. Jagged lightning cleaved the darkness, painting the landscape in stark, fleeting strokes of light. The gale wrestled with her poncho, plastering her hair to her cheeks. She peered through the downpour, searching the huddled herd beneath the gnarled cottonwoods. A flicker near the creek caught her eye. She fought her way against the onslaught, her boots sinking into the quickly saturated soil. The creek, usually a languid trickle, surged, a muddy torrent overflowing its banks. And there, marooned on a tiny island amidst the chaos, was a calf. One of Bess's, born just last week, small, shivering, and bleeding in distress. Lily May's chest tightened. She couldn't abandon it. Arthur would caution against it, advise waiting it out. He'd be right, logically. But something within her refused to comply. Her gaze swept the bank, settling on a fallen tree trunk jammed against a boulder. A gamble, certainly, but the only option she could see. Securing her poncho, she tested the log with her boot. Felt relatively stable. Inhaling deeply, she stepped onto the slick surface. The makeshift bridge wobbled. The wind roared, swallowing the calf's desperate cries. The rain stung her face, blurring her vision. Each step was a struggle against the elements, a brutal test of nerve and equilibrium. Midway, the log lurched. Lily May cried out, her arms windmilling wildly. For a heart-stopping instant, she teetered on the edge, threatened by the churning water below. But somehow, she regained her balance, her heart hammering against her ribs. She reached the island, drenched and trembling. The calf, eyes wide with panic, lurched toward her. She gathered it into her arms, the small creature quaking against her. It weighed more than she anticipated, its sodden coat clinging to her. The return journey was even more perilous. The log was treacherous, the current relentless. She felt the water tugging at her legs, threatening to pull her under. Yet she clung on, her resolve fortified by the burden in her arms, by the imperative to deliver the calf to safety. At long last, she stumbled onto the opposite bank, collapsing onto the muddy ground, the calf cradled securely. She lay there, catching her breath, her body racked with shivers. Then, slowly, she pushed herself up, the calf nestled close. She staggered toward the barn, her limbs leaden. Arthur stood silhouetted in the barn doorway, his expression etched with worry. He hurried toward her, his eyes widening as he registered the calf. "Lily May, what possessed you?" he demanded, his voice laced with a mixture of relief and exasperation. "It was trapped," she rasped, her voice raw. "I couldn't leave it." He relieved her of the calf, his touch surprisingly gentle. "You could have been killed." He guided her into the barn, where the air was blessedly warmer. He draped a blanket around her shoulders, his gaze lingering on her face. He didn't speak, but Lily May caught a flicker in his eyes, something she hadn't noticed before, admiration, perhaps even more. He settled the calf in a stall beside its mother, who immediately began to groom it. Lily May watched, a faint smile gracing her lips. Arthur turned back to face Lily May and spoke softly, "You have the spirit of a true rescuer, Lily May. Golden sunrise forever." The morning arrived, rinsed clean and sharp by the previous night's storm. Lily May stirred, drawn awake by the uncommon and welcome scent of brewing coffee mingling with the sizzle of bacon drifting from the kitchen. Arthur was already at work, softly humming an off-key tune as he handled the griddle, his expression unusually radiant. "Sleep well?" he inquired, not breaking his concentration. "Like the dead," she replied, sliding into a chair. "Didn't even register the coyotes." A stack of pancakes, glistening with maple syrup, appeared before her. "Fuel up. Big day ahead." Lily May arched an eyebrow, but his lips remained sealed, a playful spark dancing in his eyes. Post-breakfast, he instructed her to don her Sunday finery. Prompting a frantic search through her limited wardrobe, she chose a simple azure dress, reminiscent of church back home, and brushed her hair until it gleamed. Arthur, meanwhile, had vanished. When she emerged, he waited by the open gate, a borrowed flatbed truck idling nearby. He assisted her into the cab, his touch lingering just a beat too long. "Where are we headed?" she asked, anticipation tightening its grip. "Patience," he chuckled, a secretive smile gracing his features. Their route took them through town, Arthur making numerous stops to collect neighbors, merchants, even the reclusive Mrs. Henderson. Lily May's bewilderment deepened. What was afoot? Finally, they pulled back onto Golden Sunrise Ranch. But instead of the barn or the fields, Arthur steered the truck to a halt near the main house. A crowd coalesced, a low murmur rippling through them, all eyes fixed on Arthur. He ascended the flatbed, his voice amplified across the gathering. "Friends," he began, his gaze sweeping over their faces, "we're here today to mark a transformation. A vital one." Lily May stood transfixed, her heart hammering against her ribs. What was he about to unveil? "For too long," Arthur confessed, a note of remorse coloring his tone, "I've been a poor steward of this ranch. Let it languish. That changes now." He paused, his eyes finding Lily May's. "I've discovered someone with a passion for this land that rivals what mine should have been, a person with the heart and resilience to restore it to its former glory." He extended a hand towards Lily May. "Lily May Bartlett," he announced, his voice resonating with conviction, "I hereby bequeath to you ownership of Golden Sunrise Ranch." A collective intake of breath swept through the crowd. Lily May's jaw went slack. Could she believe her ears? He was entrusting her with the ranch? After all this time, all the arduous work, it would be hers? Arthur descended from the truck and approached her, his eyes reflecting an emotion she couldn't quite place. He took her hand, a jolt of electricity coursing through her. "Lily May," he said, his voice softening to a near whisper, "you've breathed new life into this ranch and, truth be told, into me. I was a fool to think I could manage this alone. You've demonstrated the power of hard work, dedication, and, above all, love." He paused, inhaling deeply. "Lily May, will you do me the immense honor of becoming my wife? Will you remain here, at Golden Sunrise, and forge a future with me?" Tears welled in Lily May's eyes, blurring her vision. This was it. The moment she'd secretly yearned for, the one she'd been too afraid to vocalize. "Yes, Arthur," she breathed, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes, I will." A joyous roar erupted from the crowd. People surged forward to offer congratulations, their faces lit with happiness. Even Mrs. Henderson cracked a rare, tentative smile. That evening, a bonfire roared at the heart of Golden Sunrise Ranch. Laughter echoed through the air as neighbors swapped stories, sang melodies, and danced beneath the star-strewn canvas. Lily May stood by Arthur's side, his arm a comforting weight around her waist, enveloped in a sense of belonging she'd never experienced before. This was her sanctuary now, her family. Golden Sunrise Ranch, once a symbol of neglect and decay, had transformed into a beacon of promise and affection, and she was inextricably linked to it forevermore. The flames flickered in her eyes, mirroring the warmth and happiness that overflowed within her. Golden Sunrise wasn't just a name, it was a pledge of a luminous future, a future she would share with Arthur on the land they both held dear.